grateful for having this man in my life.
People come, people give you all the nice words and advice and
Yeah,
support,
yeah.
right? And then once they leave, and you go back to that house with trying to lead a normal life, but without this person.
Boon and a curse to have somebody to love and also to lose. That support was taken away, or at least part of that support was taken away.
I don't get jealous of adults.
Yeah,
I get jealous of kids looking at teenagers, and I'm like, Nitika, what's happening to you?
We might be doing something that we love and it is going to make somebody else happier. Okay, this was one uncertainty which made my life too different, or it made me very not hard but made me very sensitive, and I'm not ready for another uncertainty yet. Still don't have the guts to face that. I know certain days I'm okay with it, but certain days I'm not okay with it, so I don't push myself into going and facing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on Fine Tune with me, Neetika. The vision of this podcast is to spread as much value as possible. Support us by subscribing. Today, I have RJ Anandi with me, although she's not an RJ right now. Anandi is with me. Welcome, Anandi. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Nitika. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. And I have a token of love
Okay.
for you. Here's some tea.
Okay. Is it from Ooty?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Give it a try. I hope you love tea.
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So, uh, I've seen, I think the first time I saw you is on a movie.
Mhm.
No, not Komali movie. I think it's before that. So, I think it was, I'm sorry, I don't remember where exactly I saw it for the first time, but where it got my attention was on the book show.
Okay.
So I was coming across videos and I saw you doing book reviews, and I think it was the review of The Secret Book.
okay.
So I saw that, and by the time I started reading books. So I watched the video, and the way you explained things was very quirky and funny. So it was interesting to watch. And I noticed that show kept happening, book show with Anandi kept happening, and I admired you so much in that.
Thank you.
No one has, I think in the Tamil community there are a lot of book review videos, but I don't think anyone has done it in a proper way like that. And it was so happy. I was so happy to see someone doing book reviews, and it was also reaching a lot of people. People were starting to read books because of that.
True.
And especially you were also explaining English books in Tamil,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
that was also very nice. And that's a place where I lag. I do read books, but I can't really explain them in Tamil. I really lag there. So it was so nice to see. And with each and every book that you've read, I was able to see a stark difference. That in the beginning, the books you were reviewing, it was like The Secret, The
Mhm.
Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
The most
It was
popular
all
ones.
popular ones, and I would say it's the cliche of the book
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
So obviously everyone starts there. I also
Yes.
started there, so it was like the cliche
It's like
of it.
kindergarten. You'll have to begin there and then
Exactly.
get elsewhere if you've not, began to read when you were very young.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I think you and me would have probably started our reading habit at the same time, because the books you were reviewing was similar to the books that I was reading.
Okay.
And with time we also get into deeper books, right? So
True,
I was
true.
also getting into that, and I can see that in your videos. You were also getting into deeper books like God, consciousness, and there's one more book, I think, from Murakami that you have talked about, where the passion controls the person.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening? I've just learned that in a book, and then I see your video.
Okay.
So I think pretty much we are in a similar lane
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah.
to reading.
yeah.
I think we have a lot to discuss on that.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Right?
It's something to discuss about because, on a reading journey, I think it's everybody's journey is unique. But even then, I think a lot of books offer you something to munch about. And then if you find someone who's also munching about similar stuff, you know that at least you're not reading the same book, but rather you're on the same journey. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a connection.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I think we have a great connection there. We'll come to that. But before that, I would like to start our conversation with a very important topic that I want to discuss with you. While I was also watching your videos, I was interested in your, you as a person as well, because someone like me is, I want to know more. So I had I'd gone through your profile. I've seen all the kind of work that you do, and what are the things that you usually talk about from your personal life and everything. And I felt like I wanted to talk about your experience when it comes to losing a parental figure,
Yeah.
and as open as you are about it. I don't want to push it or anything. But if you're comfortable talking about it, we can talk about it as much as you want. I know it's grieving the demise of a person is very hard even to
Yeah.
talk about it
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
think about them. So I would like to talk about that first. I want to give a perspective to people who are also grieving at this moment about their parents or anyone else, any loved one. So firstly, I want to know, personally, I have not, I mean, my experience is different, but I wouldn't say I've lost a parental figure to death.
Mhm.
But you have lost your father. And
Yeah, yeah.
so, how was that? I don't want to ask experience, but how was it?
It is definitely an experience. And I think, so when you experience anybody's death for that matter who is very, very close to you, life like phases at you. I mean, you get to realize that you are living. That
Mm,
is something that we don't think about every day because we have our own problems. We have so many things to face. But then, grief for someone's death basically makes you feel your breath because you know that's exactly what the other person lost.
mm,
And that makes a huge difference.
mm,
So for me, losing my father was also losing a perspective in my life
mm,
because I am defined by my parents because I am my childhood. At least majority of who I am today is the child that I was born and the family that I was born into, and that is my identity. That is my first identity even before I was named.
yeah.
That is my identity. I was owned by two people and they made sure that I grew up and then experienced life as such. So I think losing one of them was more like, this is exactly the thing that comes to my mind. It's more like if you find a money plant,
Mm,
it holds on to something. We tend to see only the money plant, but then the surface it holds on to, that is what is very, very important for the plant, right?
yeah.
So I felt as if that support was taken away, or at least part of that support was taken away. And this is something we don't even think twice or thrice about. We know someday we might lose our parent or any of the loved ones that we live with and who tend to color the perspective of the world for you. And I always believe the window to the world is from your family.
Mm,
You begin to see the world from there.
mm,
And for me, the world has always been beautiful.
mm,
So I owe a big thing to my family. I owe
mm,
a lot to my family. And my dad was a very expressive guy.
mm,
And generally, when I read about guys, it's not about him. Though he has a lot of patriarchal things with him as well. But as a person, when you take away all those patriarchal values, he was someone who kept me informed about the lineage that I was from. It's not about the caste.
mm,
It is about who fed him, what embarrassed him,
mm,
what defined him as human, what made him proud, what made him cry, what irritates him, and how his father was or his mother was, how poverty was there for them, what life meant to him, and how it was to go to bed without food, knowing whether or not you will be fed the next day. I think these experiences are something I wouldn't experience, I hope, and I have not experienced so far. But to hear it from somebody who's as close to you as a parent, you don't have to live it, but you
mm,
know you also share that experience
yeah.
because that has defined my father.
Mm,
Those experiences has made him a human that he was, as a father to me. He lost his father when he was very young. He was only 5 when my
mm,
grandpa passed away. So he was raised in a family without a dad.
mm,
My mom lost her dad when she was 1.
oh,
So both my mom and dad, they didn't have father figures in their lives,
mm,
but they wanted to make sure that we get to experience a complete family. And I know times are changing, and there are so many single parents are providing their best to their kids. And sometimes, even when there is another figure, like when there is both a mom and dad, still the family will be dependent on one of those figures. One figure will be taking care of all the emotional baggage, all the responsibilities of the family. It always happens. Sometimes somebody will be absent.
Mm.
So in my family, I think they tried to balance it out, not knowingly, but it happened. So when my dad passed away, I didn't realize it is possible that
Mm.
someone can just be wiped out from this place called Earth. And I've not experienced it firsthand. So somebody whom I could meet every day, whose voice I could listen to easily, whose calls I ignored, or with whom I had amazing conversations, whom I touched frequently. I think, and he was the first male figure that I
Yeah.
fell in love with. So his absence was more than just losing a father. I think it was losing a part of my world, and we
Mm.
had to live with the missing piece. I think that is very difficult, but at the same time, I think that is the crux of life as
Mm.
such.
Mm.
So I've realized it's both boon and a curse to have somebody to love and also to lose. Yeah.
Okay. But I understand all the philosophies that come at this point, but I believe all the philosophies formed maybe after a while, or after you've processed all the grief and sort of started to accept the fact that he's gone. But how was the moment that you heard that he's passed away, or the day or the next day? How was the moment like for you?
I think I was forcing myself to feel something when I didn't feel anything.
You went numb.
I went numb.
Mm.
I think even the denial happened later.
Mm.
I was completely numb.
Mm.
And I think it was one of those moments in my entire life when I was completely present, right where I was.
Mm.
I was not thinking about my future, my past, my mom, my dad, nobody. I was like, okay, something has happened. And when I got the call, I was in the middle of a road. I was in my house when my brother-in-law, my mom called me saying, okay, my dad is not breathing. And I was in Chennai, my family was in Coimbatore. So they were handling it without me. I was assuring my mom, you just have to call an ambulance. Just call an ambulance, wait for brother-in-law to come and all that. So it was all happening there. The chaos was happening there at home,
Mm.
but I was here. I was away from the chaos, or I was away from the reality.
Mm.
So this is just a news for me right now.
Mm.
But this is not a complete shocker because he's been suffering for a very long time.
Mm.
So it's not like it felt as if the entire drama came to an end.
Mm.
So it was the end, but I
Mm.
didn't know whether it was a good or bad end. But I know it ended right there. And I took a breather. And I believe my entire family, uh, they would have dealt it in a very different way because they were seeing him dying. My dad died on my mother's arms, so she had a very difficult time. My grandmother was right next to my mom, so they had a very difficult thing because they saw him dying. Rather, I was in a very different state. For me, I've not seen him dead yet. So it is news, and I'm not letting it get into my mind for it to, take shape and to make me realize that's the truth.
Mm.
So I didn't process it. So I think I couldn't process it. But I forced myself to cry because I didn't know what to do about it. Because it's more like, when everybody surprises you and you're not surprised, but you have to act surprised because that's how you've been taught
Yeah.
to. So I've been taught to cry, and I've taught to wail, uh, feel sorrow, and I was not feeling anything. And I was questioning myself because I was not feeling anything. So I had the neighbors coming in. I had my friends coming to take me to Coimbatore because there were no flights available. We had to go by car. So one of my friends drove, like they kept driving. But on the way to my house, like from Chennai to Coimbatore, during that drive, things were different.
Mm.
I was feeling gratitude for, for everyone who helped during this process. And I had to let them know,
Mm.
you know, yes, it didn't help. I mean, the result was not something that we anticipated, but I had few people who came and gave donated blood to my dad right when I asked.
Mm.
Few were strangers, few were my own acquaintances, and I had lots of doubts because when it comes to cancer, you have a lot of test results coming in, a lot of second opinions, and you don't get to decide which is the right thing. And so I kept trying to reach out to as many people as possible to get to know about it. So at that time, few people helped me through that. They were available on calls. My own friends who were doctors, they were available on calls. I wanted to let them know, though the result was not something that I'm happy with, these people actually made few things easier. I was not in confusion. At least I knew that I could get some clarity if I could just call somebody. So I had to thank them. I immediately thanked them. Like on the drive, during the drive, I kept calling each one of them. I want to tell them, see, my dad passed away, but your help, it meant a lot to me. And it meant a lot to my dad as well.
Mm.
So it it still helped.
Mm.
Okay, so I was so grateful for that. And I was so grateful for the life that I was still having. And immediately there were, I think I'm generally a philosophical person. It's also because of my dad. We speak a lot like
Mm.
that. Because even when he was taking those treatments, no, I used to play for him National Geography and Discovery to let
Mm.
him know as human beings, at least I get an opportunity to be with you when you're sick. And
Mm.
I'm trying to get help. There's communication, there is technology, there is medical help available. If we were elephants, I know I couldn't have processed these things. I wouldn't have felt these emotions. I wouldn't have any access to any of these things.
Mm.
I will be helpless, even when I want to help you. Or probably I wouldn't feel these things. But as a human, I think we've evolved to feel these many things. And I'm telling him, some random doctor, he probably, I don't know whether he would have heard about cancer when he was studying medical, MBBS, but then he pursued oncology. He's putting all his efforts today for you. And I was reading this book called Biography of Cancer by Siddharth. So in that book also, he explores how the people who were trying to invent medicines for cancer, they are all from everywhere. It is not one person. It's like
Mm.
everybody's invention has contributed to the healthcare that we have today. So I was telling him, it's so many people's dream that you're getting. I know we are able to do that. As human beings, we are so fortunate to have that. So these conversations were happening even before he died.
Mm.
So when he passed away, I didn't want to crib completely. I really wanted to be thankful for all the life that he got also, because he's someone, I've never met anybody as lively as my dad, who will love this texture. As soon as sits and he'll be like, oh, what a comfortable cushion is this. He's someone who is grateful for everything that he has had. And he's someone who's written in his diary that he feels the most lively when he runs and the wind is on his face. And even at the hospital, during the last few days when he was there, it was raining and he was smelling
Mm.
that earthy smell that was coming from the rains. And he was like, it is so good. Do you want to go out and enjoy? Because I can't come out. I mean, that is what life is all about. So he was trying, even at the end of his life, to be completely alive.
Mm.
And during that drive, that is what I was grateful about.
Mm.
I was grateful that I was breathing. I was grateful that I was able to listen to music. I was grateful that I was having two friends to drive me. I was grateful for all these people who helped me in a jiffy. And I was so grateful for having this man in my life. So I think that journey is something I'll always treasure.
Great. And like you said, some people do go numb when
Yeah,
they hear
yeah.
such a big news. And but for some reason, the whole world expects us to cry
Cry.
the hell out when someone dies. I was reading a book, and there it was written that when a person is at the verge of dying and they're in the hospital or they know that they're gonna die, the best thing that you could do is make them happy and smile, have
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
like send them, say bye bye to them in a happy manner. Even the person who knows, it was written that even if the person knows that they're gonna die, they would expect you all to be happy about him
Yeah,
leaving
yeah.
instead of sitting there and crying. That person wouldn't want that energy at that
Yeah. I
point.
used to dance around my dad. I used to dance around my dad, and we used to listen to a lot of speeches, like funny speeches, stand up comedies. And I hate cricket because of my dad. Because, when I was young, he gave all his attention to cricket when I was talking to him. And I think that's when I started disliking cricket. But my dad's brother, he had come when my dad was in his final stages. And my Periappa, so he was talking about Rishabh Pant, and he
Mm.
performed in a match really well. My dad was excited. Okay, and I don't know, see, Rishabh Pant is not going to listen to this, but I'm telling, we might be doing something that we love, and it is going to make somebody else happier. See, someone in the deathbed, he's listening to the cricket score and he's so happy about Rishabh Pant performing really well. And he's talking about fellow cricketers. And I'm like, I don't really like cricket because of you, but I can see how much you love it.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I didn't follow cricket. And thank God my uncle was there. He was talking about cricket and it was making my dad's day.
Mm.
He was just lying. He couldn't do anything else. He was just feeling all the pain. But then he'll be like, he was able to visualize. And he was also watching all the old matches.
Mm.
So I think few things. It's the life is all about celebrating stuff and
Right.
not just celebrating the good things, but also the failures and everything.
Yeah.
So I think at those times it really helps.
Matters,
And
yeah.
I was feeling bad that my dad was not, I used to wake up every single day thinking, okay, probably the doctor will say today that your dad can just go home. He's completely all right and things going to get normal. Because we were missing normalcy at home.
Mm.
We were not sleeping properly. We were not eating properly.
Mm.
And we were constantly thinking about my dad. And I was, to look back and think about those days, I'm amazed about our human brain because now if I'm sleeping, if somebody else is talking, I can't even listen to that. I'll be in deep sleep.
Mm.
Back then, since we were all very sensitive towards my dad's call, even if somebody's talking in the neighbor's house, I'll just wake up.
Mm.
Is it dad? Is it he calling me? Is it he talking? I just put him to sleep. Is it him? So the sensitivity, I think that happens even in motherhood, right?
Yeah.
So those were the days I was like, we were very sensitive as we were all tuned to my dad's frequency, but at the same time, we were all trying to bring in whatever we were good at. I was good at just entertaining my dad. My mom was good at cooking, so she was feeding him with all that she could. My grandmother and my dad, they had a very different chemistry. Like they used to fight a lot.
Mm.
She's my mom's mom, and my dad, he was not fair. He was very, very patriarchal. So they used to have fights. But my dad used to ask for forgiveness.
Mm.
And my grandma was sweet enough to forgive him or just to be with him, to tell him, dude, it's okay.
Mm.
You just made a few mistakes. Okay, yes, it hurt, but it's fine. You need not worry about it. I think the entire dynamics were completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand. And like I said, some people might just burst out to tears. Some people might not even feel anything, like how you
Yeah.
were. And some people might just don't want to face that thing that's happening. Like, no, this is not happening. I don't accept
Yeah,
this
yeah,
fact.
yeah.
But everything is okay,
Completely.
right? When you hear a news like this, whatever reaction that your body gives you, it's
That's
absolutely fine.
yeah.
Like if anyone, because I've seen people beating themselves up because they didn't feel anything at that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
And some people would be like, everyone were crying for 2-3 days and then they went back to normal, but I've been crying ever since, every single day, and they beat themselves up for that too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the way we react to someone's loss is very subjective, and we should be very, we should accept whatever comes out
Yeah.
from us.
And I feel grieving is not a linear process anyway.
Yeah.
It happens in phases.
Yeah.
Certain days I'm completely fine. Certain days I'm not. It still haunts me. Or obviously there are regrets. Obviously there are there are still fights that I have with my dad, but which I cannot have. Certain things I still blame him for few things. Um, you still have a relationship with that person even after they're gone. It's just that they can't respond.
Yeah.
But you will have your own feelings with them. You will feel bad about them. You will be angry at them. You will feel pity. You will feel guilty that you are happy without them. It happens. It all happens. And uh, we are not logical beings, right? So it happens at any point of time. It could happen right when something is happening, or it could happen few years later.
Mm.
Because I could feel I still grieve.
Mm.
Certain days it's very difficult for me to not think about him, or not think about the way that I handled it,
Mm.
or not think about the days that I saw him, his final days. His final days still restrict me from meeting any cancer patient. I still can't face. I still can't listen to a news where I read somebody is lost to cancer. It
Mm.
still haunts me because my thought is not about them. My thought is about their family. Because I've seen it firsthand. I feel cancer, or the people around cancer patients, they need counseling, they need some guidance. I think as a family, we needed it.
Mm.
But it was not available because of lockdown initially.
Mm.
And then I think now we are not talking about it enough as a family. I think any grieving family should talk
Mm.
about the absence of that person, because one day my mom might cry, one day my grandma cries. Certain days you are stronger than the rest of the family, certain days you are the weakest one, and you don't have to pretend to be stronger, or you don't have to pretend as if you are the one who've lost something huge, because it happens that way. We were all trying to console my mom,
Mm.
but in the process I realized I have lost a dad.
Yeah.
So yes, partly I want to take care of my mom, but I want to take care of myself. I don't want to. I know, yes, I have a future and all that, but this future doesn't have my dad.
Mm.
Yes, you lost your husband. It is still painful. I can empathize with you, but I should also take time to empathize with me. I think it is everybody's role in the family to feel that.
Yeah.
You know, I've lost my dad. My sister has lost her dad. My grandma has lost a fighting son in law, but then he was the most lovable, adorable, most active person in the house. She is the one who keeps crying. She keeps opening up. I think
Mm.
she is grieving really well compared to all three of us.
Mm.
My grandma is doing it much better because she's talking about it every time she gets an opportunity. But the thing is, none of the family members have still not asked each other, how is it without him?
Oh my God,
We've
that
not
is so
asked.
sad.
Yeah, we've not asked. But I don't
Yeah.
think as families we generally do that.
Yeah, no
Because we
family
don't want
does
to
that.
provoke.
Yeah.
But it's not provoking. I feel my mom will be able to understand my loss better
Mm.
than the rest of the world,
Mm.
because you saw what he was doing for me. My mom is trying to fill that vacuum,
Mm.
but it's gonna stay a vacuum.
Yeah.
Let's not try to fill it. Let's just accept it as the moon has its own contours. So let's just feel it is one of the craters that we have in our own life. But I think families should speak about it.
Yeah.
Just talk about somebody's
Mm.
absence.
I don't know why people don't do that. I don't know why families don't do that.
They should.
Yeah, like you said, people should talk about it, right? You should sit as a family and talk about how it is affecting each and every one of them. Just because, like you said, you're consoling them doesn't mean you've overcome the whole process, right? Families should talk about it. I don't know why we don't do that. I don't think any family does that. They should do that.
Yeah, it's as if it's more like, whenever there is some function happening, it will be just a word. Oh, it would have been nice if he was there. But it's not during those special days that we miss him. We miss him in the smallest of the moments.
Yeah.
Because I still remember, I never thought I would envy somebody getting a call from their dad. It happened when I was in a shoot and it was getting delayed. So one of the ADs on the sets, she was getting a call from her dad. It was 11 p.m. or 12 a.m., I don't remember. And I was like, oh my God, I missed that. I miss those annoying calls from him. Just check. I used to be like really scared about attending that call and telling him, yes, I'll be home, I'm safe, blah, blah, blah. But then as much as I felt annoyed, I really missed, and I envied that particular person at that particular moment, and I never thought I would miss something as small as just looking at a phone and getting a picture saying "Appa calling" or
Yeah.
that person is calling you.
Yeah.
I think it happens even after breakup. It's not just with a
Yeah.
death of somebody. Even if you've broken up with somebody and you're not in touch, and you miss that person appearing on your phone, you know, that person's name appearing on your phone, an incoming call, which was just very, very normal and taken for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was actually, even though I think families should sit and talk about it, um, in our family also we never talked about any major issues that happened, but I was able to also understand why people don't talk about it, because in my home, my mother got separated when I was 3 and my brother was just kai kolande.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they got separated, and uh, obviously I was a kid and my brother was a kid, so my mother probably wouldn't have anything to talk with us because
Correct,
we don't know
correct,
anything.
yeah.
But recently, after I've become more self-aware of what's happening with my life and why I do the things that I do, why I talk to the people that I talk to, why am I attracted to the people that I'm
Mm.
attracted to. Everything I've started understanding, and then I know that okay, I've not received this this parental, one side of the parental affection,
Yeah.
and it is having a lot of side effects, which I was able to understand. And I think maybe it would be better if, as a family, me, my mother, and my brother would sit and talk about, have they ever felt that it would be good to have a father figure, or have they ever felt jealous of someone else, like you
Mm.
said, or have you ever felt like this is needed but I couldn't get it? Like, do you have that yearning for it?
Yeah.
I think it would be better if we sit and talk about it. But I can also see that if I take this idea to my mother, I can literally see her telling that one side I know that she would get pissed of not being enough with her love. That's one
Mm,
one I know. And another side of it is my mother is just like, if something is not there in your life, you should be just that's it.
Mm.
Okay, it's not that, it's not, I'm good. So I see that more like putting up a wall
Yeah,
and
yeah,
denying to feel it. Although my mother had her own ways of dealing with it, she doesn't even like to talk about it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I say that, mom, I haven't talked to her about it at all in my entire life, but if I go tell her that, I know her response. If I go tell her that, mom, I think this is it, I think sometimes I do feel like it would have been nice if someone was there, not this particular person, obviously,
Yeah, but a father
not
figure.
this
Yeah.
person, but a good father figure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
A right
yeah.
father figure. It would have been nice. And I can see that my mother's response, like, my mother is like, you should be strong, you shouldn't feel those
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
ஸ்ட்ராங்காக இருக்கணும், இதுக்கெல்லாம் ஃபீல் பண்ணக்கூடாது, you've come this far, I've raised you this much, only to go back and feel about that. And I can see the response. I can
Yeah.
also see why a lot of people like us would not want to talk about it with their families.
Yeah, I think I read in a book recently that it is okay for your kid to be sad,
Mm.
and you don't have to be responsible for their happiness all the time.
Yeah.
Even if you could give them everything, they could still feel something is lacking, and it is okay. It is okay if you gave your 100%, but they're still lacking elsewhere. And it's not to beat up yourself. It's like, okay, yeah, probably you didn't want, you tried your level best to fill the vacuum,
Yeah.
but I also have the space to tell you, yes, I appreciate your efforts, but there is still a vacuum. It need not be filled, but I'm just
Yeah.
letting you know that the vacuum is there.
Yeah.
And don't beat yourself up for that, because it's not. See, everybody's trying to figure out their best, and especially when it comes to parents, I think they are trying to give their level best. But when your kid is feeling bad about something, or when your kid is not happy, instead of telling them it's not okay to be happy, just accept the fact that they're not happy. Because when you deny the fact that they can't
Yeah.
be happy, it becomes even more difficult for the kid to
Mm.
take it
Talk
from
about
there.
it, yeah.
Because we feel I can understand you, because even I cannot go and talk to my mom randomly about how it is affecting me, like my dad's absence. Because, in my house, um, the difference was that my mom started going back to work, and my akka, she also has work. So she has a family, she has kids. So she has to get back to life as
Mm.
such. She cannot wait, sit, grieve, can't happen. For me, I'm a freelancer.
Mm.
I'm at home and I'm by myself. I didn't have to meet a lot of people. So I didn't force myself to. And it is still taking me a lot of time to step out of my house. Because after my dad's death, I have just found my own cave
Mm.
because I'm not ready for uncertainty. This was one uncertainty which made my life too different, or it made me very not hard, but made me very sensitive. And I'm not ready for another uncertainty yet. But I know
Mm.
life is all about being uncertain. But the grieving and then the caving in, it all has taken a toll. And if only any of my family members, they were conscious enough to look at me and ask, why the hell are you not stepping out? You were someone who is always out. I never stay at home. What happened to you? Why are you at home? Or come back here, just be with us for a while, or I'll be there for you for a while. This didn't happen because you are denying the fact that we should, you know, you're not supposed to just be there and stuck somewhere. I know I don't have to be stuck,
Mm.
but you don't choose it sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens.
Happens.
So I cannot tell my mom, more than you, I am grieving. It's not about who grieves more.
Mm.
It's not about who loves the other person more. It is not that. And sometimes you might have moved on easily when you have loved that person enough. It is still possible. But somewhere I think the circumstances, the place that I was in, because I was the only person in Chennai, my rest of the family is in Coimbatore. So they're facing the absence of my father. Whereas as soon as I come to Chennai, my usual life is here.
Mm.
So only when I go to Coimbatore, I see him in a photograph. He's just there and he's not right there where he should be. So I am facing it in a different phase altogether. So, but I think it's very difficult for parents to notice this because, I don't think they got this kind of attention when they were young.
Yeah.
Because my mom lost her father when she was 1.
Mm.
She would be like, but you had your father for so many years.
Mm.
So it is, I think, when you're grieving, it is also difficult for you to empathize. But once once you have experienced grief, it opens new door to empathize with people
Mm.
than before. It
Mm.
does. Now I'm able to see that because now I'm able to look at a family at a hospital and relate with them.
Mm.
Before this, it was all about the patients.
Mm.
Now it's much more than that.
Correct.
Yeah. And when I used to see, the dead body being carried away in the last, thing, I used to look at the dead body. Are they young? Are they old? But now I'm looking at their faces around. I'm more focused about the people who are left behind
Mm.
because they are the ones who are going to have a different, or they're not going to have normalcy for a while.
Mm.
So a death happened in my street after my dad passed away, after 1.5 years of my dad's death. And I was just looking at the house because I know this house is not going to be normal for the next few days. They're going to remember this person when they cook, when they eat, when they laugh, when they cry. They're going to laugh in just 2 days. But then while laughing, they will be reminded of this person. They'll feel guilty and then they'll cry. This is all going to happen for the next few months. And whatever is happening in the world is not going to affect them. They are in an island of their own. So I'm more connected with them right now
Mm.
than how it was before. I'm seeing my mom in a very different light right now after my dad's death. And then my sister also, we are able to, and I heard somewhere that when you lose a family member, it's more like a musical chair.
Mm.
One chair is being removed. The rest of the family comes closer
Mm.
because you're sharing a mutual loss.
Correct.
Yeah, and then only you, members of the family, will be able to experience something which the rest of the world can't.
Mm.
And it brings you closer. I think
Mm.
I am connecting with my sister much more than before.
Mm.
I'm talking to my mom better than before.
Mm.
I'm thinking about my grandmother better than before.
Mm.
Because now I know what is to lose someone. Now I also know that they are going through a loss, and I should be there for you, just
Mm.
like I would be wanting you to be there for me. So I think it connects the family in a different level. I know it would have been very difficult for your mom. I think probably she would have put all her efforts to make you not feel the lack of
Yeah.
another figure. And when you talk about it, it's going to remind her that
Her
it is
efforts
still
were
there.
going to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is still
Exactly.
fruitful. That is what
Yeah.
we'll have to tell her. It's
I do.
going.
I do tell if. Uh, Very rarely I do talk about it, and if I, when I do tell her that it's not that you have not done things for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
You have done so much. You're like done 200% of it, but this should have been there, right?
yeah,
You even no matter how much you try to give your love and affection, a father's love and a care, especially for daughters, what
yeah,
they have with fathers are different. That space is, like you said, is empty.
yeah,
And I've for me, what's really surprising is growing up, I did not feel this particular thing. Like I did not feel jealous of my fellow mates
Mm.
growing up. I've been feeling jealous very recently, ever since I've had this self awareness and I understood that this is something that is lacking.
Mm-mm.
Growing up, what happened is my mother would tell me that if someone talks about your dad or your father, if someone asks you questions, you tell them that I have my mother and it's enough for me. And if they say something else, if they ask anything else, you just tell her that, do you have parents? You just tell yes. And if they ask, yes, my mother and father is both my mother only. So this, and I was very proud about it. So when I go out and talk to people and they people treated with some pity, right, I will be like, no, I'm good, I have my mother. Like I would carry that like a badge, as if I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
care, I don't have a father. If you have a father, okay, fine, but I don't care, I don't have a father. I'm good about it, I'm not sad about it, and I'm proud that I have my mother. And I used to do this wishes and all, like happy Mother's Day also I'll tell my mother, happy Father's Day also I tell my mother, happy Men's Day also I'll tell my mother. I would do all of these things. And no matter who asks me about it, I wasn't very sad or anything. I was like, yes, I don't care. But recently, in the last 3-4 years, ever since I've come to in terms with my shadow that this should have been there, Nitika, you have been in denial your whole life.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting jealous of the things that happened in the past, of my childhood.
Yeah.
I remember certain things and I'm getting jealous of it. For example, in school, when I was in school, I think I was 15 years old, and my friends were talking about who they sleep with at night.
Mm.
And everyone said they sleep with their fathers. And there was this one girl who said, I always sleep with my father. During periods, my mother would ask me to sleep with her, but even during periods also, I will not sleep with my mother. I'll sleep with my father only. And they've been saying all these things. I won't get sleep if I don't sleep in my father's chest and with hands on him and all. So they used to say that. I remember the conversation. At that point, I told them that I sleep with my mother. At that point, I didn't feel anything. Now I'm thinking about that, and I'm craving for that thing. Like I want to sleep with someone like that.
Yeah.
So I'm getting jealous of that experiences. And I don't know why it's happening, but it's kind of weird that when I look at fathers today, if I'm looking at another 25-year-old woman and she is with her father, they're going out having fun, I don't get jealous of it. But I get jealous when I see a car passing, like crossing me, and I see a father taking her kid to school.
Yeah.
I get jealous of it. I don't get jealous of adults.
Yeah, I get it.
I get jealous of kids looking at teenagers. And I'm like, Nitika, what's happening to you?
I think back then probably you didn't validate your own feelings because you were told how to feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we were raised as kids. We were told to be grateful for the education that we got. We were asked to be happy for the gifts that we received. So we were told how to feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes we were not in sync with what we were told. We felt something else, but we were told something else.
Yeah.
So I think that pops up when we slowly grow up and let those feelings
Yeah.
come up to the surface. And now it tells that no, That was something that you were told, and but that's not what you felt.
Mm.
Because I remember I had a very nagging feeling that I was um, not molested, but I think I was slightly abused and I didn't feel safe with one of the most elderly figures that I had met when I was young. But I couldn't name that feeling back then. I was
Mm.
just feeling uncomfortable. But later on, when I understood a lot about my body, I realized that was what has happened.
Yeah.
And only now that it pops up, I think that is um, our body's memory that is still there because it was uncomfortable, but you were not telling it out. You
Exactly.
didn't tell outside that it was uncomfortable
Mm.
because you didn't know that it was uncomfortable. You were told to feel that you should be comfortable and safe with a grandfather figure,
Mm.
but you were feeling something opposite
Mm.
and you didn't let it out,
Yeah.
and it is coming out
Mm.
after a very long time.
Mm.
And that is the problem when we tell our kids or generally, young people that they should be feeling in a certain way,
Mm.
because then the original feelings will be like bottled up
Mm.
and it's going to pop up
One
not
day.
at the right moments.
Yeah, not at the right moments. I think
Yeah.
that's what, like, the body keeps the score,
Yes, yes,
right? It
yes.
keeps score, and at one day when you become self-aware, it just like, this is why that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, yeah. That's the truth.
And how was the normalcy at your home
Mm.
after all of this chaos has happened and it got settled? People come, people give you all the nice words and advice and
Yeah,
support,
yeah,
right? And then once they leave, and you go back to that house with trying to lead a normal life but without this
yeah,
person. But recently I was seeing a reel and the person has posted that it's so weird that my father is dead but all his things are here, like he's
yeah.
coming back home. So how was the normalcy at home after all the chaos got over?
One thing that was surprising was we had a good laugh on the second or third day,
Mm,
and as a family.
mm,
So we were thinking about something, and then we were teasing my father,
mm,
and we were all having a good laugh. I think that was my first lesson as to there is no one emotion when it comes to grief. It comes in multiple emotions. You will also feel happier
mm,
about a few things. So we all were thinking about him. So we were like, okay, if only he was here, he would tease us for that. I think we were just trying to come to terms with this absence. Even now, in one of the wardrobes that we have at home, we have written a date. My
mm,
mom had written a date when my dad was pretty delusional during the last few days. So for him to know that the days have changed, so she had written a date. It is still there.
mm,
We are not having that, this thing to wipe it off.
mm,
It is as if it's etched. It's just written on a chalk piece. You can easily wipe it off. It is still there. And his clothes were all there in the house. And I think my mom and the grandma, they took care of everything to organize and all that stuff. But still, my grandma tells me, like, my dad has a cashier type box at home where he keeps all the cash
mm,
depending on its denominations. And my dad usually hisses at anybody who takes money from that without
mm,
his knowledge, because
mm.
he's calculated, he's kept it properly. So my grandma tells me even now, when she wants to take something from that, she still feels as if, is it okay?
Mm.
It is still there. So I think as a family, probably the minute details of taking all his stuff, rearranging and everything, I think it was taken care by my mom.
Mm.
That is when she found my dad's diary, and then she went through it, and she thought she would have written about us. Rather, he had written about running, and my mom was like, oh, this guy felt most alive only when he was running, it seems. So we were making fun of him. So I think that's our way of letting each other know that we miss him.
Mm.
So that's there. And I saw one book that I had given him. So he was reading that book when he was fighting cancer, and the bookmark is still there from where he left. So I know he's read till these pages, and the rest will never be read by him. But the bookmark is still there, and
Mm.
I don't want to, disturb it. So those are few things that are there, and I still find it really difficult to uh, go to my house and look at my dad's picture. I still don't have the guts to face that. I know certain days I'm okay with it, but certain days I'm not okay with it. So I
Mm.
don't push myself into going and facing it. I don't look at it.
Mm.
Rather, my mom does it. Like my mom works in the kitchen, and from the kitchen she can see my dad's picture. So
Mm.
she speaks to him, like has a conversation with him. She cooks. She still does that. It was very difficult for us as a family to remove the double bed that was
Mm.
there in my mom's bedroom and to change it to a single bed.
Mm.
So this was a very difficult conversation because we were rearranging the entire house. It was not my suggestion, obviously, but my mom also felt the bed is too big, and anyways, it is only me who's sleeping in there. So why don't we change it? But it was more like, okay, we are accepting it again and again that this guy is not going to come back. And I think after my dad's death, for about 3 to 4 months, my dreams were very similar.
Mm.
It would all be like, hey, I am not dead. Soon after you lit the fire and then you guys left, I came back through that door, this door. I was still in the hospital, you burnt somebody else. This would be my dream.
Mm.
This was happening for 3 to 4 months. I think that was my denial phase. My mind was finding it still difficult to accept the fact that he's gone and he could
Mm.
just come anytime back. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Consciously, I think I was okay. I understood that he's no more. And after the denial phase, even during the denial phase, I think I was also angry at a few doctors in the hospital that he was treated. I didn't like the way they were treating patients. I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but as he was my dad and he was
Mm.
just being treated as a patient, as not as
Yeah.
a not as my dad, since he was very special to me. I think that anger was justified back then. So this was all there. I
Mm.
think I think we went through this to come to normalcy.
Mm.
Uh, the Diwali was difficult. After that, the few festivities were very difficult because we used to have rituals as a family,
Mm.
and this person was missing. So we were finding it quite difficult.
Mm.
More than me, I think my entire family would have found it more difficult because they were living with that.
Yeah.
They were living with that emptiness. I was in
Mm.
Chennai and I didn't have to face it every day. But my mom still tells me it is very hard to go to bed and wake up without having him next to him. It feels weird. Sometimes she questions her own existence. She wonders why she has to go on when it was
Mm.
all she had. And also since the patriarchal setup was obviously quite stronger, just like in most of the neighborhoods. My mom was attending to my dad.
Mm.
She was taking care of all his needs,
Mm.
and now she's ready to help, but nobody needs her help.
Uh,
And she feels as if the purpose of her existence is missing.
mm.
But I'm glad now she's finding her own ways to, you know, find meaning in her life.
Mm.
She's contributing to somebody's education. She's learning new art. She learned driving just before my dad passed away. So she's doing everything that she could.
Mm.
And I feel that is again a problem in a patriarchal family.
Yeah.
As soon as the husband is no more, the wife finds it very difficult to find a purpose. And if the wife is missing or the wife is dead, the husband has nobody to, you know, just take care of him like she was doing because he was completely dependent on her. I think this imbalance of patriarchy is something that is very, very difficult after the demise of a spouse in a
Mm.
patriarchal setup.
Understand. Understand.
Yeah.
And how was may I know how long has it been since your father's demise?
He passed on 2021 January.
Okay, it's been 3 years now.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you? I want to know how it not having a male figure has affected your relationship with other male figures you have in your life, be it your friends or
Mm.
relationship.